Hi, I'm Dr. Doug Weiss, and welcome. Today's topic is Step 4 for Intimacy Anorexia. And if you are a recovering intimacy anorexic, you're going to want to listen in. This will give you some encouragement as you're working through this incredible healing process called the 12 Steps. Now, if you've yet to subscribe, please do. We've got lots more steps and a lot more other videos that could benefit you. Now, if you have a question, please put it in the box. Happy to respond to you as soon as possible. So stay tuned. Step 4 in intimacy anorexia recovery is so important. In all addiction processes, the addict, as they move to recovery, they admit that they're powerless, they turn their life and will over to the care of God, they start developing and growing. But step 4 is the first really work step. It's a step where you gotta have pen and paper in hand. Now, as an intimacy anorexic, step 4 is imperative. As you do step 4, and I'm gonna read it in just a minute, you're going to be able to see patterns, you're going to be able to see decisions, you're going to be able to see some of the intimacy anorexia stuff as to why it has happened in your life. I've counseled thousands of intimacy anorexics, more than probably anyone on the planet. And as I go through their stories, it's pretty easy to find out it happened here, here, and here. The rejection of this woman, the lack of attachment with mom, or sexual abuse, or stuff that's in their story that caused them to close their heart, to shut down. Okay, and it could be as simple as just not being able to ever connect to mom and dad because they weren't available, or they were addicts themselves and they were so immature it wasn't safe. But you begin to put this together. So let's read step 4. And as we go through this, I'm going to give you just some encouragement as you go through step 4. Now, if you're an intimacy anorexic, you really need the Intimacy Anorexia workbook and the step book. The step book, really, there's pages and pages of questions to help you to move through step 4 and then be in a group and present your step. It's really important that you do this process not by yourself. Intimacy anorexics need to connect and attach. And it's really important as you walk through these very vulnerable steps that you have support and that you're known as you go through it. So let's read step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, all by itself, that last word, ourselves, is so important. We're not inventorying our spouse, even if they are intimacy anorexics. And we're not evaluating our family. We're not evaluating our children. We're evaluating ourselves. So let's go through this. Made means it's going to be a process. And right here, I would really say to you, do not drag your feet. It's very common for intimacy anorexics to try to drag it out and do the least they can and, all that. And generally, a step a month is, what you're aiming to do. But in this one, I highly recommend you pick a day and you sit down and you get it done. Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and just sit on your porch or go somewhere that you can and just sit there until you have the whole thing done. And then before you do that, make an appointment with your sponsor, your therapist, your pastor, or religious leader, and have a place to do your step 5. This is not a step you want to spend a lot of time soaking in because it'll put you in the bad box pretty quickly. And as an anorexic, you want to avoid the bad box, okay? If you stay there very long, you'll start taking it out on your spouse, and you could have some significant relapses because you're just not facing some of the things that you're trying not to write down. My encouragement is write it down. Now, in most of this process, I would say, write down the 10 worst things right up front, the things you never want anyone to know, and that way the rest of the step will be easy. Okay, and you can just put it in the right order as you go through it. Now, made a searching. Okay, this is a one-time event. This isn't something you do again and again and again and again and again. If you've done it right the first time, you're done. Okay? because later in the steps, it tells you how to maintain not building this stuff up. So made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Now, searching and fearless, those are great words. Searching is you're going to really go through this thing and really push into some areas and look at this. And you're going to have to be fearless because as an IA, you don't want to be bad. You don't want to be seen as being bad. And there's some bad stuff in your story. Now, there's different kinds of stuff. And if you're hopefully using the Intimacy Anorexia Step Workbook, you have the columns there. Generally speaking, in all the step workbooks, there's the column of the good. Those are maybe good decisions you've made and things you've accomplished. And, everyone has that. Then there is the bad. That's the middle. This is where you, as a man or woman, have made bad choices. And these could be small or big. These could be car accidents. These could be things you've done, sexual behavior, sometimes things you're ashamed of. But in the second column where you've made bad choices, you want to own the bad choices you've made. And it's really important as an anorexic because in step 5, you can get rid of this stuff. But you can't get rid of what you can't be honest about. So you really need to be honest. Now, the third column is the bad stuff that has happened to you. This is the sexual abuse. This is the family of origin stuff. This is if you were emotionally, physically abused. This is where others have hurt you. And it might be other things like surgeries or disease or legal issues that have happened to you that have caused pain for you. But that's in the third column. Because the good, bad, and the ugly, that's your story. That's all of our story. And you really do have to be fearless as you look at this. And it's interesting, it says moral inventory. Moral is basically identifying, what's right and wrong. And if you've done step 1, 2, and 3, you're using a different standard than your own emotions. You're using kind of an objective standard of morality. Basically morality is, what does God think? What does God think about that decision? And I've made bad decisions. I'll never forget writing my step 4. I went right to it. And I just kept going and going and going until I was done. Okay? And I'll tell you about my step 5 in the next time that we talk about this. But step 4 was for me a very important thing. And I took hours and I just sat down and I just wrote down everything I knew that I needed to write down. You know what you need to write down. Actually, the things that you don't want to write down, those are the first things you do write down. And again, this is the inventory of ourselves. And as you move through step 4, seriously, the best thing, make an appointment on Saturday morning, knock it out Saturday afternoon or Sunday or Monday, get with the person you're going to do your step 5 with, and get this over with. Because what happens when you do step 4, you kind of sometimes swim in that soup, and oftentimes you swim in the bad and the ugly soup. And you don't want to swim there. You don't want to take yourself or your spouse through that where you are feeling bad about yourself for weeks. This is not what's the least I can do. This is what's the most I can do. Maximize your thinking, put your foot on the gas and really push through this one. This is a tough one for intimacy anorexics because it's really hard for an intimacy anorexic to see themselves, especially their weaknesses and flaws, because you think you're not loved. You are loved, but you have to go through this process to experience that being honest with your humanity, being honest with things you've done that aren't that brilliant or wonderful, and things that have been done to you that have hurt you. Once you take the journey of fearlessness and honesty, you can begin that you're flawed and loved, that you don't have to present an image, that you can just be you and be much more comfortable in your skin. So the 12 steps is a gift. Step 4 is a gift. What you do with it's really important. But as just, person to person, recovering person to recovering person, knock this out. Do not waste any time. Be really proud of yourself that you did good work, but this is not about writing a novel. This is just getting it done so that you can share with your group your step 4 and be able to move through the next step. I'm very proud of you for taking this journey. This one's hard for anorexics. Step 4 and 5, those are very hard, but they're the most freeing of the steps for you as an intimacy anorexic. So please take this particular step very seriously and go for it. Now, if you've yet to subscribe, please, I invite you again to subscribe. We have so many videos for intimacy anorexia, and the spouses in recovery and marriage, all which could be helpful to you. And if you do have a question related to this topic or something else, please just write it down there. Happy to get back to you as soon as possible. And again, thank you for taking this journey together.